You said the word community a bunch of times so far. How did you decide to lead with that in your business and in your life?
You know, I don't think I led with that. I think I limped into that. And I think a lot of times, as men, we're strong and we're enough until we're not, and then we limp into needing help, needing others, or maybe we always needed help and needed others, but we just don't acknowledge that.
Welcome to Guys Fishing Weekly. We don't just fish, we hug.
Hey, buddy.
What's good, Eddie?
Whoa, you changed it up a little bit. How are you?
I know. I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just cranking through.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Life is good, my man. Life is good.
Yeah.
Got out for a day this week.
Love that.
Yes, indeed. I got some good bitches on there. Although I had a hard time getting fish to the net. I hooked up a ton.
Yeah.
But those squirrely little suckers were getting off my fly before I get them in the net. But that's not always that bad. I got to play a few, which is good. And then I just don't have to touch them. So it's not all bad.
Not all bad.
But yeah, it was good. It was good fishing. So it was great.
But for all we know, they were all 4 inchers.
That could be. No, they were not, Ed.
I can't prove it.
Yeah. No pictures, no proof. That's how it is. Yep. That's the way it goes.
Yeah. It's this hard knock life in the social media age.
Yeah, indeed. Lordy. Used to just be you could go on your word. That means nothing anymore.
You used to be able to lie about how big your fish were forever.
Yeah.
But now you have to pick up.
That's right. So Eddie, what are you celebrating in your life these days?
I am celebrating the fact that we hit 1,000 followers on Instagram.
Yes, we did. That was sweet, dude.
We ticked over another 0. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Right? Increments, baby steps, bro. We're getting there. That's a good thing.
Yep.
Congrats on that.
Thanks, man. Congrats to you as well.
Right? That's a good one.
Yep. What are you up to? What are you celebrating?
I am celebrating that I get to go to my son's welcome bash at UCCS tomorrow. Yeah, we got a big day planned. He gets to go down to school and they're going to make him feel awesome and supported and happening. And, hopefully we'll get to go see some stuff down there and get into his dorm. I don't know, but we'll be able to kind of scope out things a little bit more and it should be happening. So that's going to be fun. I'm super excited for him. I get giddy for him and the excitement of that because I remember back to when it was my turn and you know what I mean? Yeah, so it'll be fun. So I'm super stoked about that. So we get that tomorrow. So that'll be cool.
Sweet. How quick do you think he's going to just bolt from you?
He's pretty much bolted already. Okay. My kids stay out until like 10:30, 11, 12 every night. I'm like, I don't know where they are. We're like empty nesters already. They leave early and they don't come home. No, so yeah, he's in and out so much. I think he's pretty excited to get started though. I think he's pretty stoked. So it'll be good.
It's good.
Yeah, it'll be good. He'll get amped up for it. That's good. Eddie, what are you navigating, brother?
I am navigating right now the last items of summer projects in the backyard, I guess. So I'm trying to give myself a deadline. I'm not great at finishing projects. I like to get everything to like 96% completed and then be like, that's good enough. And so this is a hard time for me right now. Struggling through getting those last bits done. You don't need to hear everything I got going on, but got some gravel delivered today. Got a big dumpster coming next week. Trying to get everything done by the end of next week. So that's the goal. Right. It's all falling in line, but this is a tough time for me finishing projects.
The honey-do list is long.
Yes.
That's good.
What are you navigating?
Well, Ed, in my newfound work of GF Dub, I have been given some technology to learn. Yeah, with our newsletter and creating some stuff and helping you try to get some load off of you and all the work that it takes to run this thing. So I'm navigating that, and I'm finding, some struggles, as you well know, when I'm texting you with frustrating questions and things, but I'm learning. And so that navigation of technology, as you know, is always a fear of mine. And so I feel like I'm starting to get a handle on, little bits here and there, which is kind of cool. So that navigation for me feels good. Stretching yourself into places of unknown and doing things that you don't typically do. So it's been kind of cool, and I'm having a good time doing it.
Well, you're doing a great job. I know it probably doesn't feel like you are when you're learning new things, texting me all the time. It might not feel like you're making progress, but you're doing great, man. So keep up.
Sweet.
Making my life easier.
In some ways.
Couple quick housekeeping items before we get into the show today. First, we are giving a replica of Pop's Fly Journal away. We have information on how to get a copy on our Instagram page. Simple instructions of following and forwarding to a friend.
And we're giving away some GF Dub swag too.
And some GF Dub swag. So a partnership together. We're excited to help highlight his, mission of helping out men and everyone with mental health and mental health awareness. So we obviously support that mission and want to help out in any way that we can. The other item is at the end of the show, we're going to be mentioning a survey that we'd love everybody to fill out. If you just take a minute, help us greatly for the next phase of our project here at GFW and helping out as many men as we can. So take a look at that as well. Well, this week we have another great interview.
Indeed. Super stoked for a conversation with Peter.
Yeah. Today we have aquatic biologist, fly shop owner, and friend of the show, Peter Stitcher of Ascent Fly Fishing. We talk about all topics, including community here and abroad, the power of leaning on other men to help navigate life, vulnerability and humility, building strong relationships, and how fly fishing aids in all of that. So let's get into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's go.
Hey, Peter, how are you?
I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on today.
Welcome, Peter. We're excited to have you here with us.
Why don't you start off by giving us a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, so name's Peter Stitcher. I own Ascent Fly Fishing. So we're a biologist owned and operated fly shop in Littleton, Colorado. And yeah, you guys came into the shop, I want to say a few months ago, talking about fly fishing as a place of connection, a place of being known and a safe space to process. And that really resonated. So yeah, I see the river as a place of abundance and a place where we get to share stories with each other and build relationships. So yeah, we had an immediate kinship in vision and experience, I think.
That's good, Peter. I first was introduced to you by one of your patrons when you were in your garage and you started your fly shop in a garage. And for me, that immediately kind of appealed to me because it kind of took down those barriers that, like you walk into a fly shop, it can be intimidating. But you're opening your home and your garage as a fly shop. Talk a little bit about that process and how you kind of got started with that idea, because it really is, it kind of matches what we're trying to do in terms of building a community and a safe space and those kinds of things. And you really created that. Talk a little bit about how that came about for you.
Yeah, I think so. For 9.5 years, Ascent Fly Fishing, my shop was based out of my 2-bay garage at my home. And on a weekend, we would open our doors and put out some signs and put the call out on Instagram 500 guys would pull up in trucks over the course of a weekend, and we'd be sharing, what's working. They'd be saying, I'm going to the Deschutes River in Oregon, or the Beavers Kill, or the Crooked River. And I would, as a biologist, just focus my brain, take it to that part of the country, assess kind of the hatches and life stages. And we had, at that time, probably 300,000 to 400,000 flies in trays in the garage. And we would match their hatches. So we'd meet people where they're at. And we did it out of my garage. And I think we did it that way for a couple ways. I think my garage and my home was a safe space for me. I didn't have to kind of play by the rules of the fly shop. I mean, fly shops are kind of intimidating. I could open when I wanted, and I think it's kind of a safety thing. I could close the door when I wanted and kind of let in who I wanted. But as it grew, again, people are in my space. It's not pretentious, right? We're literally in a garage, and so yeah, they let down their guard and they say, I don't know anything, and I say, no, that's all right. Let's just get you 6 flies. We're not going to sell you a $500 reel. We're just going to get you what you need for success today. And I think that resonated with people. And generally, if you came in, you were offered a beer. And if you came at dinner time, you were offered a burger. And yeah, it was just kind of a no frills, really honest, meet people where they're at. And that's where we started. And that's where I met you.
Yeah, that was good. Now, recently you've moved kind of into brick and mortar,
Right.
like a traditional shop. That couldn't have been easy. Talk about that process a little bit. What made you go that route?
Right. It's interesting. I think, our homes are our refuge, right? I mean, it's our castles as men where we can kind of close out work, close out the outside world, and we feel safe. So, my home was that for many years, but during COVID, there was a big season of loss for our family. A loss of relationship, loss of marriage, and again, I think with all that loss, I built the walls up a little bit higher. I closed in a little bit tighter, and towards the end of COVID, I met a beautiful woman named Sarah. We started dating. We got married, and she was a really safe person. She encouraged me to take risks and to know that I was safe and supported in doing so, and so I felt at that time, 9.5 years in, that I had the support to be vulnerable and to put myself out there and say, I'm going to open up a shop, and I hope that the community will come. And those relationships, that openness that I had shared over those previous 9.5 years, having kids ride their bike over with their allowance, spending $6 on flies, spending 45 minutes looking at maps so that their mom could drive them to a new fishing spot. There is no qualification on, lawyers versus, dishwashers. They got the same attention, the same respect, the same attention. Yeah, those guys came, those women came, and, opening day, May 5th, of 2023, 2,400 people showed up. And it's like, all right, the way that we've done business, the way that we've respected and listened to people has resonated. Not hard selling them, and they're still a part of our community, and they want to invite other people in. So it was vulnerable to put myself out there, but it was received by the community. And what we have done in my home, literally in my home, inviting people into my safe space, we've tried to do that in the shop. And it's meeting them where they're at, getting to know their names, really sharing our appreciation that they would spend their time with us and share their hopes with us on the river. And if they need something, we'll equip them with it. But yeah, our space in fly fishing is really a medium for a relationship with each other and then with our larger community.
Yeah, you've done a very good job of making connections with people, primarily through your education and knowledge that you've shared with the world, your biology background, your wonderful events of Bugs and Brews. I guess, how did you come about having all of this knowledge and knowing that you can tell people flies all the way up in Oregon or down on the coast? Like, how did that knowledge come to be?
Yeah, so I have always loved fly fishing. I've always loved fishing. I have a picture in the shop of me and my dad. I'm 4 years old. I got like this iron, gaze looking into a trout pond in Knoxville, Tennessee, and my dad's there holding a Zebco reel with me as I'm catching my first trout. So fishing has always been the spot where I go when I'm mourning, when I'm rejoicing, when I'm processing. I have loved the world of trout. So in a very circuitous path, I studied a couple of things I thought I was supposed to study in college, and ultimately I went back to, man, I should be working with fish. And so I left my master's program in counseling and went and got a third bachelor's in aquatic biology because I love trout and I love that world. And so, yeah, I went into that degree wanting to know everything that makes healthy trout. Where are they going to live? What do they see? Why do they select this bug over the other? What are the life cycles of these bugs? And so that was my passion, and then segueing that with fly fishing. So over the years, we've built a database of bugs that really covers North America, Patagonia, New Zealand. So someone can tell me when and where they're fishing. We have 55 full-time fly tyers. We tie up to 2,300 dozen flies a week. So we got the flies, and then it's about taking the guesswork out. It's by sending people to the river with exactly the flies that are on that water, where they're at in that water, the sizes, the colors, the profiles, everything. They're going to go out and feel alive, right? They're going to engage success. They're going to touch that excitement, and we want people to feel the life of the river, and this is just taking the science and helping them do that. I mean, that's what we love to do, and I'm uniquely, I think, equipped to do that.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the things you've talked about already, and we've talked about in the past, that sense of community, that seems to be a recurring kind of theme for us in our conversations with you. Mm-hmm. Your flies, I think one of the things that definitely, as we look at our, as our economy progress, and I think younger generations are putting their money into brands and products and things that they believe in and that bring them value. And that certainly was one of the draws for me with Ascent Fly Fishing. When I learned about how you're employing your fly tyers specifically, and how, you're offering them things that a lot of big corporate companies don't do with their fly tyers. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell our listeners a little bit about that background, about how you kind of got involved with that and how you found fly tyers, because it's fascinating to me.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a story that we hadn't really told for most of our business. It's just something we invested in. But, I would say 98% of commercially tied flies are tied overseas, tied in Thailand, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, and Africa and Kenya. And so for probably going on 80 years, commercial fly tying has been going on in Kenya. And some of the largest fly tying companies in the world have had factories there. So in 2014, I opened my first little fly tying factory in Kenya. We had a manager and 2 fly tyers. And in a country with roughly 75% unemployment, an artisanal job like fly tying is going to support a much larger community. So that has grown over the years we have about 55 full-time fly tyers in Kenya. And the reason I opened Ascent Fly Fishing was to provide opportunity for my family to cover the healthcare for my infant daughter, who was ailing at the time. And, I want my kids to go to college. I want them to have good housing. And that is the desire of my fly tyers. In the shop, we share stories of opportunity, of excitement, of like great days on the water. I mean, there's a very tangible blessing from, this young kid comes in, I give him his first couple flies, we tie up the knots together, he goes out and sends me a picture of this grip and grin with a trout, and he has this indelible memory with his mom who took him out fishing. They caught this together. Well, that's a blessing for our community. But I felt, just in my heart, like that needs to be equally shared with the entire Ascent community, and that is my fly tyers, that is their families. So last time I was able to travel there was 2018, but we have these parties where we celebrate. So I said, bring all of your dependents, everyone that's counting on this. And, with 55 tyers, there's probably, about 500 people that are benefiting from the proceeds of the fly tying. So we do things, I think, a little bit differently than other manufacturers, other wholesalers, in that we have a living wage. So we pay per piece. We also have a profit share, a 6% profit share. We have interest-free microloans covering healthcare. So there's a fund that, as there's a need within this community of 500 plus people, they can pull whatever funds they need to cover healthcare. And over time, maybe 5 cents a dozen will pay that back as they tie more flies. And then, this community, we see, some of their kids have, we have one girl who's just finished law school over there now. So the generational shift in opportunity, I mean, that is success. I will work in my garage for 9.5 years to see kids go through university. And we're to a point now that, it's sustaining a larger shop here, but also much greater opportunity over there. So,
That's an incredible piece that a lot of people don't think about or don't get to see that kind of what's going on behind the scenes. And so I just think that's an incredible thing that you're in a way to give back to. And I think clearly, I think we need more of that in our world, but that's just amazing. I think that's an incredibly admirable thing that you're providing for others. Kudos.
You said the word community a bunch of times so far. How did you? We obviously love the idea of community here as well at GFW, but how did you decide to lead with that in your business and in your life?
I don't think I led with that. I think I limped into that. And I think a lot of times, as men, we're strong and we're enough until we're not. And then we limp into needing help, needing others. Or maybe we always needed help and needed others, but we just don't acknowledge that. So I started Ascent Fly Fishing out of, I think, some deep need for validation. Yeah, I could make a good living selling flies and helping people kind of hack the science to catch more fish. And I did that out of I think a real drive to build a name for myself. I'm the biologist fly fisherman. I'm the only biologist operated fly shop. If you want to learn how to catch more fish, you're going to come to Ascent Fly Fishing. So I was like, at this point I had there's these tiers, there's the Sims of the world. When you think of waders, you think of Sims. When you think of fly rods, you think of Sage. And when you want to learn how to fly fish, I wanted people to think of Ascent Fly Fishing. And so I invested in that. And when you invest in something, you sacrifice other things. I was flying to Texas to speak at the Plano Beer and Fly Fishing Festival over my daughter's birthday. And I was flying to New Jersey to speak at the fly fishing show, and then to California, and then to Atlanta, and doing this national tour covering all the entomology classes. And I got validation from men and women who I didn't know and wouldn't really see again at the cost of relationship with my kids and my wife and those who are in closer to home for the validation of all these other people. And again, I had alluded to it, during COVID, it was a season of loss of relationship, loss of family. I mean, we were losing people literally to COVID. It radically just shifted. What am I doing? What am I doing? And several men came around me, and in my darkest, lowest days, held space for me. They didn't fix my problem. They couldn't carry me, but like crossing a rapid river, I mean, we linked up arms and we supported each other. We're all in this current, and I'm feeling it differently than them. I was feeling a little heavier, but they held me up. They kept my head above water. And I started doing the hard work, looking at what was driving me to be that guy, that I had to look to everyone else in the fly fishing community to give me my value and affirm who I was, when I was valuable and I was that already. And I found this inherent worth and belovedness that was true of me. And it was like instead of getting swept down the river, I found this rock in the middle of the river that I could stand on, that I was secure. And I realized, like, man, you know what? I'm safe now. I'm secure now. I don't need that validation. And I see other guys dealing with the same stuff I dealt with: addiction recovery, going through separations, struggling with kids who are struggling, and it's like, and I see these rocks, and I see other men that have done that work and have found those safe spaces that, I have an opportunity now to reach down and for a time help someone up to at least where I'm at, and maybe together, there's a guy that's a little further across this river of life that can help us to the next spot. And so men invested and held time for me. And so I feel like I'm in a space now, and I can create a space now in Ascent Fly Fishing in our store where we can it's not about selling them stuff. That happens. We're together because we like fly fishing, but community has evolved and created, and that we take time to hear their story, hear where they're at. And when they're ready, if there's a need, they can share about, a client who lost a son, and we stop looking at reels and we hold them and we cry, and I'm like, tell me about your son, and we honor them, or about their hopes, or a parent who's struggling and sick, and that is how community is formed, out of loss, out of found strength and hope, and then we can hold that space for others. And fly fishing in the store has become a medium for just engaging life together. That's a lot, but that's where I'm at.
That's a very powerful story, for sure, and something that resonates 100% with us, and that ability to, be vulnerable and open your doors for others, and all the introspection that you just went through on realizing that you were trying to get validation elsewhere. Those are big things that happen in life. And, thank you for sharing that with us. That was truly an awesome story. We've talked about it, and as part of our kinship is creating groups that would meet up in fly shops and other fishing establishments around the country, and having space for people to come and talk about those things. What kind of value do you think that would have provided to you in those times when you were traveling around the country trying to get that validation, or through the other losses in your life?
Yeah, I think I have met men in the fly fishing community that, there's a lot of ego in fly fishing. There's a lot of ego in anything. I mean, a lot of our work, especially as men, right? This is, guys fishing weekend.
That's the man existence.
Yeah, it's this measuring, looking for affirmation and value. In my darkest hours, I did experience that with some men in the fly fishing community. There's a group called Alter, and they're a faith-based group. They're at all the fly fishing shows, but again, they're engaged in some hard life spaces with men, and they sat with me while I was mourning, while I was processing, while I was reeling. I was getting swept down river. They were one of the guys that, some of the guys that kind of held my hand and held me steady for a bit at the fly fishing shows. I experienced a different depth of, they could hold a space for me without having to carry me, where I could just get my feet under me again. Jason Randall, nationally known fly fishing instructor, and, casting and books, but man, a man of deep character, and, he could hold space. And he prayed for me when I was going through this really hard stuff. So I think with whatever your community is, there probably are people that have done the hard work, that are moving from a place of abundance and strength that can hold space for you. But I did find some of those men in the fly fishing world. I love the idea of intentionally, getting those people together, those that have experienced vulnerability and can sit with a guy without having to fix their problems, that can just listen. Like, we need that. We need places where we can be heard, where we can speak the stuff we're dealing with, and just be safe doing that. And I love the idea of intentionally creating that space with with people that have done that hard work and can sit with guys there. So I experienced that kind of on an unorganized, level at the fly fishing shows and stuff. That, I mean, the reason I'm talking with you, the reason that we talk often is that, man, I see a need here. I see where I've experienced healing here, and I want other guys to experience this here. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's part of our kind of mission and philosophy is there's a lot of groups around for, men who have had trauma in their life, whether it be, vets who are dealing with things, or cancer survivors who are dealing with stuff. But there's not a whole lot of place for just regular Joe Schmo who is dealing with, just the difficult things in navigating life for men. And so that's really what spurned a lot of what's driving us, and finding those kinds of people that will help, hold you up and will support you during times of needs, and not having, I think that those kinds of places seem to be difficult, or right, men don't know necessarily how to go about finding those places. And so that's part of the reason for, what we're trying to do, and why, Ascent has been so great, is that from the moment, you walk into your fly shop, there's a sense of some of that friction and some of that ego-ness is gone. It's not there. It doesn't exist. Like, how it is walking into some other fly shops. It's hard. They don't want to tell you anything, or they tell you the same places that they tell everybody else to go fish unless you buy something. And so there's something that's real different about when you walk into the Ascent Fly Shop and the Ascent community, and it's different. There's a sharing of, which is part of your mission. Your mission is, the 3-part thing about sharing the water and sharing knowledge and sharing life. And I think that is something that's just invaluable, and that a lot of men don't know where to go to find that necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think we know we need that. We were so used to being isolated and being islands. We don't know how good it can be to have other guys just with us. Yeah. And it doesn't, Project Healing Waters, phenomenal group, essential, serving disabled veterans who have given so much. And we support that work. Real Recovery, awesome group, casting for recovery for women, but walking with people with cancer, putting them together to support each other. And we on the outside can support that as well. But I think we qualify like, man, I don't have it that bad. My life's pretty normal. I got a good job. My kids aren't that screwed up.
Right.
We qualify it, and therefore we allow ourselves to stay isolated. It's like, we don't need to be islands. Like, life is so much richer. We can walk so much taller. We can be a much better version of ourselves as men in the company of other men. We need each other, and we don't need to qualify like, my trauma's not that bad. My dad didn't, I wasn't abused, blah, blah, blah. No, don't qualify it. We need each other, and that's good. We are the village of fly fishermen, and if we can do that on the water, let's do it. Let's do it around the things that we love.
Absolutely. And I think that's what GFW wants to start, right? That's what we want to set up is a place for that to kind of authentically grow and happen. If we can pull guys together and do that, that's the goal. So, that's good stuff. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the things that men need a lot of, and something I recently noticed that I needed, or at least it felt nice when I accomplished it, but I think men want to be seen and acknowledged of like just what's going on. They don't necessarily need you to fix it, even though we're all really good at giving advice and unnecessarily. But we don't need it fixed. We just need to know, like, hey, put our little island on the map. See what I'm going through and talking. And I recently completed a half marathon, and my biggest takeaway from the half marathon was not the fact that I can run 13 miles and it's on the way to running a full later this year, but I could have run that 13 miles by myself down the street and been like, okay, that was cool. I did it. But the fact that I went and did it at an actual event and ran and and finished and had family there and people were excited for me. And there was something about that actually being seen in that moment, in that situation, that I think is so important. And you providing that space and conversation for people to just express their needs. I mean, you're a biologist that owns a fly shop with some counseling background, but you're not there to provide them the answers to all their problems. I think you provide so much value by just showing like, hey, I'm here. I'm here to see you. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to experience this with you. Like, you're not alone in this. I think that is so huge.
Yeah. And we were talking before the podcast. I mean, your family affirmed you as you ran that half marathon, like affirmation that we're enough, that you're a good dad, that you don't need to do more. Like, we don't get that as guys, but it's so valuable.
100%.
Yeah. I had a friend text me last night, and he'd been through a season. I mean, lost a relationship again. And he's like, man, over the last year and a half, like, thank you so much for just being there. Like, I didn't fix his divorce or his relationships. Like, you just listen and hold space for each other. And just, I mean, that appreciation, shared appreciation, speaking gratitude to each other. And I think we need a space where we can just, it doesn't cost me anything to say, like, and Ed, you are being a real intentional dad. And even though your kids are struggling, like, you're doing a great job, man. You're doing a great job. Yeah. It's just, we need a space to affirm each other or just to say, man, I am really struggling with this with my wife right now. And I'm afraid if I say this to her, she's going to really embody this and it'll hurt her. And it's like, I mean, it's this pressure, this steam, this building up in us, and to speak that, we're not entering their relationship, but to hear that and to affirm, like, you know what, keep listening to her, man, stick by her, just, humble yourself and just keep encouraging her, keep hugging her, even when you want to walk out the door. Like, we need to be able to call each other to that and just like, keep going, man, you're doing a good job, and it's going to get better. And then the runoff drops, our heads are above water. They're walking a little stronger. And the next season it comes around for someone else and they can encourage them. But we need to learn to do this together. I don't know how to do this well. I'm learning. You guys are learning. But let's start doing it intentionally together so that we are the men that we can be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times I find it's so much easier to screw it up and do that in the company of my brothers than it is in front of my family. You know what I mean? And so it's essential for our survival.
Yeah, essential for survival. That's absolutely.
It's good stuff when you get it, but learning how to do it, right? That's the key, because we don't know necessarily how to do that stuff. And it is humbling. And I think that's, that humility piece is important, certainly in, through recovery and, battling my demons with alcohol and all those things. Humility is one of the greatest gifts that I've been given, to be able to say, I don't know. I need help. I can't do it on my own. I've seen what the destruction and the chaos that causes. I need help. And so, that humbling experience in learning how to do that and learning how to live my life with feeling emotion and all those things, I wouldn't be able to have a family and a wife and kids and, for the last 30 years. And so if I didn't learn those things. And so, life is so much richer when we're able to do those things. And I think having, a place to be able to do those things and just the grind of every day, it's a place to release some of that stuff and talk about it. And, it's so important and essential to our survival. And it's just been a gift for me. And that's what we want to do, is share it, help others feel it and see it and experience it.
Well, and I think the humility of, like, we don't have it figured out. And,
no.
And I think the conversations we've had around, guys fishing weekend and trying, how do we intentionally create a space to engage these topics, to encourage each other, to learn how to do this together. You guys have been like, how are we going to do this? And I think, you're talking about, putting out a survey to the community, like, what are your felt needs? How do we do this? Like, this is something that you're not just building, or I'm not building with you. It's like, you want the community of men, joined by a desire or love for fly fishing, no matter how infrequently we go. Like, how do we do this together? So, I mean, this isn't something just you're building. I love how intentional you are to open this up to let others invest their felt needs and their thoughts to make something really cool here.
Definitely. Yeah. We don't know it all. And we definitely will hope to get some feedback as we continue down this path and get the survey out to everyone and what they need and want from the community and just other men. So 100%. Moving on to kind of, if we were to come out and do a trip together, obviously we're in your backyard, but if we were to come out to the Littleton, Colorado area, where would you want to take a fishing trip on for a 4-day trip adventure?
Yeah. So, there's several questions that we ask everybody who enters our shop. And the first is, we ask, what's your name? So again, who they are is important to us. So we got the names established, and I said, what's your goal? Like, what's your vision for this trip? How far do you want to drive? Are there certain species of trout you want to catch? Are you looking for, kind of a secluded place for, like, just so that you can process and have your own adventure? Are you looking for community? Do you want big fish? Do you want little fish? Or do you want a lot of fish? No one wants little fish, but do you want a lot of fish? Big fish? Do you want dispersed camping next to a hot springs? Is proximity to good margaritas part of your trip that day? So it's like, what is their definition of success? What's their heart need that day? And then we go up we got a flat screen on the wall, and we got the world in front of us, and we will drop pins, and we will say, if you go here, these waters here, we got the flow charts up there for the entire U.S. Every trout-bearing state, we got flow charts. And so we're comparing flows to different waters, to different elevations and snowpacks. We say, this is the route. This is where I would go. This is where I would camp. These are the flies I would fish. You're going to have an awesome time there. And so we meet them where they're at. Right now, if we were to do 4 days, that's a big trip, right? I mean, the rivers are pretty blown still, especially your big floating rivers here. So I would take us up, probably backpacking into either the flat tops, probably the flat tops. And again, we got some pretty high snowpack, so there's some elevation constrictions, but there are some 20-plus inch brook trout still to be had in the flat tops. There is certainly many mid-20-inch cutthroats. So we would probably do a series of lakes. There's some golden trout. I don't know if we have access to them just yet, but yeah, we kind of plan out some backpacking and some lakes over there. If it was a day trip and the intention was like, I want to walk side by side with you, and I just want to spend time with you, I want to talk, and we're going to walk on either side of this creek and dissect a creek as we dissect life. We're going to talk about our days as we're talking about where to put the flies next, and we're going to rib each other when you miss a strike, and we're going to change up flies, and we're going to hit that beaver pond again until we get that big guy out from under the jam. And so, I mean, those are some of the most valuable, memorable days, is walking side by side up a creek. And so there's some new drainages that I've started exploring, a little bit more central Colorado, west of Colorado Springs. And I would take you out there, and we'd car camp, and we'd just hit some different drainages. Maybe we'd hit the same one every day, and we just hike down 3 miles, fish our way back to the truck. And then certainly good food and conversation, and a fire is absolutely going to be central each night.
Heck yeah. This is, you had Reid's mouth watering when you were talking about 20-inch brook trout and cutthroats. I mean, he's jonesing.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Come on by the shop. I'll drop you pins. Sweet. And again, fishing spots are always free. You don't need to buy anything for that. Again, it's about connection and community. And yeah, it's a place, the river is a place of abundance. And so for me, sharing that with you or any of the guys I hire, share it just as openly, because we've experienced life there. We want you to live and experience that with your family, your community. So there's not less for me if I share with you.
Right on. Ed and I have talked about wanting to do one of our trips with a couple of 10-carat rods and going up and doing some hiking and backpacking and maybe doing, an overnight or two and just with 10-carat rods, and because we've never fished them. And so, doing something new like that would be a blast. So that sounds like that might be, catching a 20+ inch brook trout on a 10 cara rod.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Those fish aren't that's going to be a challenging system for those trout as far as where they're at. But we can get you into some good browns and other stuff with that. But yeah.
Sweet. I'll take the 3-weight too, and we'll go. Yeah, I know. I'll hike in a regular fly rod as well, but
Yeah.
20-inch brookies, yeah, I'm in for sure.
Yeah, I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, we definitely need to do that trip, and those all sound like awesome places. Well, I guess maybe we could wrap it up here with some easy, lighthearted, rapid fire questions if you're up for it.
Yeah.
Awesome. What is one thing you're currently celebrating in life?
I went fishing with my dad for the first time in 35 years a couple weeks ago. So he's moving through cancer treatment, stage 4 cancer, but it's been really challenging. They've moved in with us, so we are a family of 7 and under one roof now. But his treatment's going really well, and there's a lot of beautiful moments in between treatment, and so I'm really grateful that we still have him with us. So I'm absolutely celebrating that.
That's fantastic. I currently am dealing with, my mom's got dementia, and so the aging parent thing, which is awesome and it difficult to navigate at times and hard, and especially when they don't live near us, my brother and I. And so I'm currently reading a book about, it's called Being Mortal, and it's about aging in our community, and in kind of the way our society looks at the elderly and how they get older. And so that's a real special thing, and that's awesome, dude. That's a great celebration. And this has kind of provided me a chance to kind of work with my dad and my brother together and given us a chance to do that. And it's kind of been cool, to kind of try to understand, where he's at, and why he's thinking the way he is and making the decisions he is. And you know what I mean? So it's been really helpful for me. And like you say, those moments are precious. And as they're getting older and you start to realize, man, they're not going to be here forever. You realize your own mortality. So it's kind of cool. So that's awesome. I'm glad you had that time and had that moment with him. That's really cool. That's awesome.
I'm glad you're having those intentional conversations with your family as well. And man, I'm sorry to hear about your mom. That's really hard.
Yeah, it's good. She's doing actually pretty well with it, and done all the things she needs to kind of halt it or slow it down. And so, but it's a process. And again, it's those things that it's new territory. I got all this stuff that comes up, and you don't know how to deal with it necessarily. And so again, having those guys and talking about things in those spaces really helps that. Peter, share with us a piece of content, a book you're reading, or something you're watching, or something you're into, some piece of content that you'd recommend to our listeners.
There's been certain books that have been really healing and instrumental in like my growth, that we've ended up recommending them to so many guys. We ended up buying about a dozen copies that we will stamp with the shop address in the front cover, and as guys need it, we send them out the door with one of those books. And I think the one book that I probably put out there, and one I'm reading with my son right now, is he's 14 and not dating yet, but will eventually. It's called Attached by Dr. Levine is the author, and Attached is about attachment theory. As a infant, how did you engage with your parents emotionally? Like, were they there and available so that you were stable to kind of grow and process your young feelings? Did you feel like you were unseen, so you were anxious and had to keep crying out? Or did you find that your emotional needs as a baby weren't addressed to? And so you then learn to bury those. And the way that you attach as an infant is how you engage in relationship, adult relationship, friendship, a romantic relationship. It doesn't feel safe to speak my needs, because it always hurts. No one ever shows up. And so we avoid that and we pull away from people. And so it's a really easy read, but so instrumental in understanding how you engage the world in relationship, how to do it differently and from a safer space. And also how your partners or how your friends or your coworkers, man, what are how are their pieces put together? What tools are they working with? And then how can you engage that in a way that is safe and productive and allows you to move forward into something better? But Attached is a great book. I think I got one copy back the other day, but we got a lot of copies out right now in the shop. But I would absolutely recommend that book.
That's awesome. Sounds like a good book to pick up for me. What is one of your favorite fishing memories?
And my ADD brain skips so quickly all the time. But yeah, I go back to these farm ponds in Nebraska that my mom would drive me to connect. My grandma, sitting in those old metal and plastic woven lawn chairs, by a lake, Copeland Lake in Rocky Mountain National Park, where my grandpa worked the trailhead. So many good memories. My son and I last year went on a survival camp out where we built our own shelter, didn't bring any food, flint and steel fires, and he caught a limit of brook trout. The first trout I've probably eaten in 20 something years, but my son caught it, so I ate it, but I think, seeing my dad a couple weeks ago mending a line in like 400 CFS, like muddy water, like a champ, seeing that and him just smiling and getting the downstream mend, like the little snake mend, and missing a big trout on this little side channel, and his flies went up in the tree, but like his eyes were huge, and I could tell his heart was pumping. Like just witnessing that and seeing other men standing with my dad in the river. I wasn't his fishing partner. I was fishing with another gentleman from New Mexico at this cancer retreat, and but other men affirming my dad, listening to him, holding him in the water. It wasn't just me supporting him. Like all of a sudden there was 10 other guys with cancer, and there was 12 other buddies out there fishing with him, all supporting him. Like he was secure, surrounded by men. That's one that's going to sit with me forever.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Give us one piece of advice you wish somebody had given you when you were 20.
I'd say feel your feelings. Like, man, I have self-medicated with fly fishing, with drugs, with alcohol, with success and entrepreneurship, with sex. You name it. All the things that men self-medicate with, I've distracted myself from feelings of loneliness and of sadness that have driven me for affirmation, for success, for affection. And when I finally was still, when I was by myself, I had to be. And I looked at, where did this come from? And I realized that at the end, I wasn't swept away. I didn't drown by feeling this. And I realized, I have a faith background, that I was not alone, that the whole time I was being held, I was seen, and I was enough. And I was safe, and it was safe to feel that. And in feeling that, then I could look at those spots where those hurts originated, and I could go back and say, you know what, that wasn't your fault. You were a kid. You don't need to do more. You've done enough. You're a good man and you're a good dad, even if these particular people can't reflect that and show that. They're moving from their own hurt. They're still running from it. But you're a good man. So believe that. And when no one was around to tell me that, I had to look in the mirror and tell myself that multiple times a day. And I cried. But it was okay. My kids hadn't seen me cry but 2 times their whole lives, until I finally felt it, and then it was safe. And then it was safe for them to feel. And they felt big feelings at my house. And it was okay. It was theirs to feel, but I was there with them. And hopefully they're not going to live with a limp the way I did until I was, 39 years old, So feel the feelings. You're okay. And what you're feeling is normal. And you know what? You're a good man. You've done enough. And we're here to affirm that. And so let's tell each other that. Not until they're 20, not until they're 60. Let's do it today.
Right on. That's good advice. Yeah. I wish I would have had that too. Yep. Absolutely.
What is your definition of community?
I think it's a place where you can show up right where you're at. And there's not an expectation of you need to bring this to the table. In some seasons or some days you can hold space for others, and sometimes you just need to be held. Sometimes you need advice. you get it when you ask for it. Otherwise, you just need someone to listen and just sit there with you. And so I think community it's a group of guys in our case that are learning, that don't have all the answers, but you know what? We're going to speak truth to each other. We're going to listen to each other. You show up when you can, and there's no expectation, and you give what you can, but it's also a place where it's safe to receive. And that's one of the hardest things for guys, is to accept a kind word, is to accept help, and not to do it out of a thought of that you're weak, but it's because you're worthy of it. You're worth it. You're worth having guys show up for you. And that's community, is a place where you can ask for it and when you can receive it, and even receive it when you don't ask for it. It's like not receiving advice when you don't ask for it. It's like, you know what, man, you're going through a lot. Like I'm bringing dinner tonight. Like, you're not asking for it. Or, let's come on over for a cigar. Like, let's just sit, that's
Right.
That's community.
That's good stuff. I love the idea of no qualifications, right? You don't have to. That's good. Love it.
So we have been doing this segment now, and with all of our guests, we're calling it Conversation Between Guests. And so we have a question from our last episode that they wanted to ask you. They didn't know who was coming on, but they asked this question. What do you see growing in the industry, and what are you doing to bring in new blood to the sport?
Well, I love I see, Orvis had like a 50-50 on the water campaign, and Orvis, they make great products. They have some awesome lodges and shops that are endorsed by them. There's some awesome people on their staff. Tom Rosenbauer is a phenomenal educator that has empowered a lot of people to engage the water in ways that are life-giving to them. There's this initiative to, I think, empower women to feel safe, to feel seen, to feel equipped to engage the world of fly fishing. And I like that. I don't know. What is that born from? I don't know. There's probably some financial, behind that, but there's also, I think, that we have experienced so much joy in life there. Let's make this more inclusive. And so inclusivity, on the water, regardless of sex, of orientation, of experience or age, of race, man, you are welcome to bring your grandpa's spinning gear into my shop, and we will get you a bubble with water in it and one fly to fish. You don't need to have a fly rod. We're going to meet you where you're at. And I want everyone to feel welcome on the water. I want everyone to feel welcome in the shop, where they're at. And so I've seen that. I see that spirit growing in shops that don't exhibit that, where it's some plaid shirted, bearded dude behind the counter who's just like, don't ask what you need. They don't meet you where you're at. You're a wallet to be emptied. Like, those guys are going to go out of business, and I'm fine with that. Yeah, I want this. I want to see people. I want to meet them where they're at, and I want everyone to feel welcome on the water. And I think there's some good people doing that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that is one of the main things to bring people into the sport, is that open door policy, in a way of meeting people where they're at. Like you say, I think can be very off-putting to go some other places. So if the industry wants to grow, and it's something that has definitely come up in a lot of our conversations, of worry about the future of what is happening at fishing lodges and the overall sport and conservation being important to people anymore. I think it definitely needs to be more welcoming. So, and that's something that's drawn us to you, and we really appreciate you doing all of that for the community.
Removing the friction. Yeah.
We got to ask you, what's your question for the next guest?
Yeah, I think I'd like to ask them, share a memory or a moment when you felt most alive on the water.
Awesome. That's a good question.
Excellent. Good question. Nice. I like it.
Well, this was an awesome conversation, Peter. We really appreciate it. We are looking forward to working together more as we continue on this journey, Guys Fishing Weekend, and building out that. So super happy that our paths have crossed and we're a part of one another's lives. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned that you guys have a survey. I look forward to seeing it. I look forward to sharing it with the Ascent community, and hopefully, this conversation would, spur some introspection as to what resonates with these guys out of this conversation. Like, what would they look for in guys fishing weekend so that we can, be intentional in creating the space. If we're not intentional, it's more of the same, right? So I like how you guys are being intentional, and we, both myself and I think, the Ascent community would love to help be a part of that.
Awesome. We appreciate it. We really do. It's been great having you on the show.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in the shop.
Sounds good, buddy.
Yep. We'll talk soon. Oh man, that was a great conversation.
So good. I'm so impressed with Peter's commitment and his intention for building community, right? I mean, that's a big piece of what, we want to accomplish and what we want to achieve. And I feel like our values really align with everything that Peter's created, even when he started back in his garage, and it was that kind of, welcoming environment. But he's just been so intentional about being that for people in need whenever they need it, and being that for people who, want to get involved. And he's just so welcoming, and he's really been intentional about building that, and his dedication to it's impressive. 100%.
Yeah. I want to first off just say thanks to Peter for being so open and vulnerable with his story and sharing, some of the things that are going on in his life or have gone on in his life, and, walking people through the journey that he went on. I think that's huge to see someone kind of show you the path that might lie before you, or the way they handled something. So it's great to have an example of somebody who has battled through some stuff and still does, and come out the other side stronger for it. So I want to say thanks to Peter just for being open and willing to share and chat about everything that he did.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, modeling that and seeing somebody else. I mean, right. It's all about us being able to take in other different people's, how they do things, and how they've survived things, and however they've navigated it. And it helps us in our own navigation. We take bits and pieces of what we want. And so, yeah, he's really good with that. And that was cool of him to be able to do that with us on our show a little bit. That was pretty awesome.
Yep. He's one of the best we've come across, and super smart, super educated, pretty much can get you on fish wherever you are in the United States, which still blows my mind that he's able to,
right,
tell you what works in certain places that, are a long ways away from Littleton, Colorado. I think that's
right. Dude, when we were up fishing on one of our trips, we were up on the Taylor, and I literally we were fishing, and I took a picture of my fly box and I texted it to him, and he circled 5 different flies on the picture and sent it back. And I tied up within literally 5 minutes, I was fish on. Like, he is that kind of guy dedicated to giving that kind of service.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he's amazing that way. And that's why he has such a big following. And that's why people go to his shop, because he's that kind of community oriented guy. And he wants you to catch fish and be successful and have great experiences. And that's what it's all about. So yeah, he's one of a kind. And I think he's an amazing guy.
Yep. And I can't wait to keep working with him. I think it's really exciting what we're going to be able to pull together and do in his shop, or, if it gets big enough, do somewhere else. But, bringing that community together around just being guys and hanging out and chatting about fishing, or just about life, and finding places where you're able to just communicate with one another and let someone know the fun things that you're celebrating in life, as small as they might be, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, and,
right,
or what you're navigating might be really challenging, and being able to have a space where others can hold space for you, as Peter, describes it, and, help you navigate those trials and tribulations of life. I think it's important to have those places. And I'm just grateful that Peter's willing to open his doors and do that for people.
right? To offer that up to help us, right? Help others. So we're super psyched to have that partnership and friendship with him. I'm excited for it.
Yep. And so we're going to be sending out a survey after this show airs. The survey will come out tomorrow, so take a look for that. It'll be on our website, on our socials, and so if you would take a minute to fill that out and share it with others. We'd love to hear what everybody is looking for in an event like that and in a space like that. It will really help us provide the best opportunity to people. So keep an eye out for that.
Good work, man.
Yeah, great conversation.
Awesome episode.
I love you, man. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good, brother. Love you too. Bye.
Bye.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our website, guysfishingweekend.com, to check out the GFW merch, sign up for our newsletter, and learn how to get involved with the community. We appreciate you spending even a little bit of your week with us and are glad to have you along on the journey. Stay legendary and happy fishing.